Welcome to Visions of Our People, where we feature brothers and sisters who have followed their vision to build businesses, institutions, or services that serve, profit, and uplift our community. Listen as we share the ideas, experiences, and skills that help to shape their unique stories of commitment, perseverance, and triumph. Be inspired and catch your vision on Visions of Our People. Now, here's our host.
Pamoja Tutashinda, brothers and sisters. Together, we will win. This is K-Fing Umwafrika Moore, your host and producer of Visions of Our People. Today, we're sharing the vision of Brother Sondai Lester. He's the author of the book, Who Dropped the Ball on Our Kids? The continuing miseducation of black youth and its negative effect on their identity, formation, and economic power. Brother Sondai K Lester has spent much of his life leading, teaching, researching, and writing with education as a central theme in his commitment to social change. His experiences and leadership have ranged across the social sector as a public school and university teacher, Board of Education Region Vice Chair, Atlanta Housing Commission Chair, a lead minister and theologian at the Pan-African Orthodox Christian Church in Detroit and Atlanta for more than 25 years, leader of Black male fatherhood and early childhood learning initiatives for the city of Detroit, Head Start, educational consultant to school leaders, and serves on numerous community boards. He has taught and trained scores of ministers in liberation theology and helped transform the lives of thousands seeking racial uplift, reclamation of self-worth, and a path to social change through the Christian experience. He is consultant and founder of PSE Institute, Planting Seeds of Excellence, which is committed to laying the foundation for excellence among generations of socially conscious leaders and learners. He continues as a 50-plus years member of Kappa Alpha Psi. Brother Sondai has a Master of Arts degree in teaching and underwent his doctoral studies in educational administration. To augment his theological work, he attended seminary at Atlanta's Interdenominational Theological Center. He is the father of 2 adult children, Tariq and Noni, grandfather to Jide Fullerton Olayinka, and the husband of Lindiwe Stovall Lester, his devoted queen and spouse. Brother Sondai Lester is also one of our mentors, friends, and one of the great minds in the Pan-African world community, and that's why he is known as the Son of Thunder. Welcome, my brother, to Visions of Our People.
Thank you, brother. Appreciate it.
You're welcome. Well, it's a pleasure to have you. Who is Sondai Lester, and where did the term of endearment, Son of Thunder, come from?
Well, I thought about that when I looked at your questions, and I think it goes back to our good friend, has now departed, Sadakifu, when we were all ministers, and he used to say, well, when you start preaching, it sounds like a storm is coming, and they just start talking about thunder, and then he started calling me the Son of Thunder, and he was just, whenever I saw him when he was alive, first thing he would say was, thunder, thunder. So I think it goes back to those days when we were all together in the shrine.
Wow, so that came from Kifu, Sadakifu, huh?
Comes from Sadakifu, yeah.
Wow, how about that? Great story. Now, brother, when did you get the vision to write your book, Who Dropped the Ball on Our Kids?
Well, I've been thinking about that, K-Fiend, and it takes me back to years ago when I was undergrad, and I went to this seminar by a brother named Danny Aldridge, who you may be familiar with, who's an activist in Detroit, and he was doing a seminar on Marcus Garvey. And I went in there, and then when I came out, and I was so confused because I was thinking, why here am I, sophomore in college, 19 years old, never heard of Marcus Garvey. And I wondered, how could I go all the way through school and not know a black man who had the largest black mass movement in world history with over 1 million dues-paying members? And then it came up in my mind, I started asking this question, why? And then I started thinking about my education, and I'm wondering how I went all the way through school. I never read Richard Wright. I never read Zora Neale Hurston. I never read Ralph Ellison. I never read W.B. Du Bois. I never read James Baldwin. I kept asking, why? Why is this? What happened that I could be a black male going all the way through school and not even really understanding that black people wrote novels. And so that started me to thinking about public education and why it was the way it was, and why black students have so little, if any, exposure to anything that is related to the black experience or black individuals who are trying to comment on that experience. And so I think that's what led me eventually to this book and trying to answer that question, why? And now, as I look back on it, I'm wondering, why are those European writers deemed to be of so much more value that we quote them, but we can't quote any of these? Why wasn't I reading them? And especially since they were writing out of my own experience. And when I read Richard Wright's Black Boy, and I'm thinking, he's writing about me. Why didn't I read about this? It would have helped me understand what I was going through as a black male in this world. And I was trying to understand what was happening, and so it led me to try to analyze the educational system and see what was the reason behind the absence of all of this black material, black authors, people who contributed to the black experience, to black people's problems. Why didn't I know any of this?
It turns out that was all by design.
Well, that's the conclusion I reached when I was reading the book, that it wasn't by mistake, it was by design.
Yeah.
It was intentional, that the system was built to create a certain attitude in black people which made us more amenable to occupying our second-class citizenship. And so the conclusion I came to was that the system of education primary function is not to prepare people to get a good job, although that is a function. The primary function of the school is to prepare people to fit in to their position as defined by those in power, and for us to accept that position willingly without realizing that we have been conditioned to accept it, and we think it's normal when it's not normal. So the whole system is designed primarily not to give us content in terms of academics, but to create a certain attitude in our minds where we kind of adapt and submit to a system that keeps us subjugated in a second-class status.
So when you ask the question, who dropped the ball on our kids, it suggests that somebody either forgot to educate our kids or neglected to educate them. Who would you say dropped the ball on our kids?
Well, in the book, I write, it's a personal assessment. There were three of us when I first graduated. We were all educators. Myself, Kenny Hill, who started the DAPSET program in Detroit area, pre-college engineering program. He's in Chicago doing the same thing.
Okay.
And Ira Rutherford, who was the former superintendent of Flint schools. All of us were teachers in public school. And we had identified that the school system lacked a perspective that was conducive to the development as human beings of black students. And so each of us, I was at Spain, one of them was at Burroughs, the other was at Hutchins, and we started to try to input into the system experiences for black kids that will hopefully help them get a different perspective on themselves and the world in which they live. So we worked on that. We brought in books. I used to have book sales. I'd go to Vaughn's bookstore, and my kids would line up, and it was weird because my kids were poor. They came from the Brewster Project, and I used to use Lerone Bennett's Before the Mayflower for American history. And they bought this book, and then they were so excited because it was like a whole new world had been opened up to them. And Kenny and Ira would do the same thing. And so we were slowly trying to create a whole new perspective in terms of the curriculum focus. And we did that, and then all of a sudden, with technology coming up, and Kenny went to STEM and did a great job. And my question was, that's good, but did we kind of get lost and kind of push what we started off to the side to move to something else, and not really try to build that into what we already started? So the question is, did we drop the ball and not keep the focus and not keep putting pressure on people in the system to integrate this whole black experience into the curriculum so black kids would get a different perspective of the world that they lived in?
So if you're saying that possibly that we dropped the ball, my brother, can we pick that ball back up? And if so, how do we do that? What's the process for that?
Well, yeah, I think we definitely can pick the ball back up. We always have that choice. as long as you're alive, you always have a choice to do something different than you were doing. My goal is, at this point in my life, through the book, is to leave a document that indicates where we were at that point and what we thought needed to be done and some of the things we tried in an effort to get that done. And hopefully for the next generation, when they start working on education or anything else, that they don't start all over again, that they're building on something that's already been laid down by those who came before them, so they can use this as a document to start thinking and then start seeing what's relevant for them in their time and to add on to it. So hopefully, my hope is this book represents that possibility, and young people will read it, young educators will say, because they're not going to get it in the college education, they say, I've got to think differently about how we educate our kids and what they need to know in order for them to be fully functioning human beings and not just subjugated without even understanding what's happening.
My brother, what is your vision for your book, Who Dropped the Ball on Our Kids?
First, I would like to see a movement within public education, especially as it relates to urban education, where the student population is predominantly black. I'd like to see a movement among young educators demanding that we change the model, the curriculum model, from Eurocentric to African-centered. So black kids will see the world, the history of humankind in the context of our experiences. And to me, you can't teach U.S. history without teaching the impact and influence and role of race in terms of the wealth and power of this country. And white kids need to know this. They don't even know this. Your privilege is based on all the exploitation of all those slaves that your ancestors took out of Africa. They need to know this. But black people definitely need to know, black kids, but white folks need to know it too. So that would be one, I think, also an effort to, at least, and even through the schools, for them to work with parents to try them to be a support of that effort to get black kids to see the world in a way that brings a positive identity formation, and to try to get parents to analyze their own household and see how their household either contributes to that or takes away from that. Like one thing I mentioned in the book, and is a survey a parent can take to analyze their own household and their own parenting, is what does your house look like inside? If a child is in this house, who does this child think he is, just walking around the house and looking at the wall, what's on the wall, what's on the bookshelf? What is the image that child is getting just from the physical environment of the household? And I think parents, they need to do a survey, and then they do the survey and say, I see what it is, then what do you need to do to change it? And they have to answer that question. So I think more of that, where their parents are becoming a support mechanism for the school and radical progressive educators to try to change the whole perspective that a black child has about himself in the world.
Brothers and sisters, you have been listening to Brother Sondai K Lester. He's the author of the book, Who Dropped the Ball on Our Kids? The Continuing Miseducation of Black Youth and its Negative Effect on Their Identity Formation and Economic Power. You can purchase his book on Amazon, or you can call the Shrine of the Black Madonna Bookstore and Cultural Center in Atlanta, Georgia at 404-549-8676. You can catch Visions of Our People on YouTube at Kafing Moore, or on Facebook at Promote the Vision. You can support our podcast on PayPal at kafingmore@aol.com. If you would like to promote your business, nonprofit, or event on our podcast, send your requests or comments to kafingmore@aol.com. Join us again for more Visions of Our People.
Thank you for joining us for Visions of Our People. We hope that our stories of commitment, perseverance, and triumph have inspired you to follow your vision of creating businesses, institutions, and services that uplift our brothers and sisters, serve our community, and make us the great people that our Creator made us to be. We wish you peace and blessings, and we invite you to join us again for Visions of Our People.